And a Fox News alert, President Biden continuing his tour of the southern border. He toured the iron fence separating the United States and Mexico while speaking to officials. There you see him. The group was then joined by Secretary Mayorkas before making their way to a migrant detention center. So there you go, panel. There is the president at the border inspecting the fence that separates the United States and Mexico. Doesn't work very well because we saw the numbers. We put the numbers up before, and they are overwhelming, and they are just continuing to get worse and worse. And again, you know, you have to ask, does his visit really change anything, Tammy?
Well, you know, I think that it's meant to. It certainly immediately changes the rhetoric when it comes to whether or not he's running. So as a result, consider this, you guys. President Biden is actually, not surprisingly, reportedly all in on a second run for the White House. An ally of his says an official announcement will happen within weeks. That ally telling The Hill, quote, "I think it's all about timing at this point. It seems like he's all in. It's not really if he runs anymore." The New York Post exclaims, "Joe, no!" The 80-year-old Biden, who is the oldest president in history, would be 82 if he is inaugurated a second time. That ally's comment, Anita, though, had a lot of kind of wiggle words. Seems like, you know, peers, et cetera. And I think that this could be partly an effort to keep other Democrats from beginning to organize, to keeping everyone at bay when it comes to donors, planning, strategy, hiring people, maybe Kamala Harris, other people not wanting. So this is an announcement that could change. It certainly doesn't seem to be firm. But even if he does announce, that's something that could be retracted.
Sure. Yeah. And I think that's a really good point. There's definitely some strategy here. It's hard to believe that he would run again, only because, like you said, he's 80 years old. You see him and he has trouble getting through a simple speech. He stumbles over his words. He mixes up facts and figures and gets his numbers all wrong. He appears lost on stage. He shakes people's hands who are not there. You know, it's a grueling job, and a campaign would be even more grueling at his age. And the last thing I'll say is I'll ask the question, is he a very inspiring figure that would inspire the younger generation of people to vote for him?
You know, but that becomes the question, right, Guy, in that they did it once before.
Right.
All of these problems existed. They hid him away. People knew there were issues. People pretended. You've got a cadre of people in the White House who clearly have a lot of power. I think they want to keep that power. Can this work a second time?
It doesn't have to be inspirational. It just has to be successful. Right? It wasn't inspirational last time. The dynamics will be different in 2024. But if you think someone who is maybe not seeming up to the job can't win, look at what happened in Pennsylvania in November. John Fetterman is now is a U.S. senator. I think I've always been skeptical about Biden's desire and his family's desire for him to run for a second term. I maintain that skepticism, but it's looking more and more like he actually might take the plunge on this. And I think he has been emboldened by the November results. I think there are Democrats who are thinking, OK, if the Republicans are going to go with Trump again, that's another discussion that Republican voters have to think about very closely. But if it's going to be Trump again, here's a guy who has proven he can beat Trump. Do we want to change horses if he's willing to run and potentially win? I mean, it's fascinating because there's a lot of people lining up who want to be president on the other side of the aisle.
Sure.
But I think if Biden gets in and says, I'm running for re-election, they're basically stymied, I would say.
Or they would, of course, invigorate a challenge against him. But at the same time, to Guy's point, I mean, you've got very different dynamics here than in 2020. Twitter is no longer on board. That change is going to continue. Even if Trump does run, of course, there's challenges there. We know more about Biden. We know about lies. We know about all of that. Is this something that you think they could pull off again? And if so, isn't this up to the Republicans? The midterms, I think, were more affected by the Republicans not having a real message that people could hold on to.
Well, I think the most important thing is for Republicans to go ahead and define those issues that they want to run on. And I think nothing is more important than fiscal responsibility, because fiscal responsibility at the federal level has everything to do with whether you can afford groceries and whether you can afford gasoline. And Republicans have to make that connection, which they failed to make in the last election. The other thing I think is border security. You know, our southern border is more important than Ukraine's border. And if Republicans can't make that argument I know the voters agree with that, but Republicans need to make that argument. But also, it does sort of underscore the fact that Republicans do have nominal control of the House is an important thing, because the Democrats use the House as a launching point to carry out so many of the lies that they pushed in the 2020 election, and so much of their ability to hurt Trump and hurt the truth from getting out. My hope is that Republicans are smart about using that platform.
I don't see, Guy, really that changing. The Democrats have never limited themselves based on what it was they controlled or what they didn't control. That's something the Republicans need to learn about. But wouldn't this also be an opportunity or a necessity when they think about who would run? Kamala Harris, Pete Buttigieg,
Gavin Newsom,
Newsom, Stacey Abrams. I mean, I don't know. Maybe Hillary will run as a Democrat. You never know what she might pull out. Isn't this a chance? Because I don't imagine Kamala Harris, this would be an opportunity to move her off of the ticket and to have somebody else on that ticket with him who would then take 28.
He keeps referring to her, though, as President Harris. So.
Well, I'd be surprised if they booted her from the ticket. I think the Democrats say we just had a historically good performance in the midterms. Yeah. All the arguments Charlie was talking about, Republicans made those arguments. They just did so with some candidates that people couldn't bring themselves to vote for. That's what Republicans have to think about on their side. And the Democrats might say, look, it's not perfect. Sometimes it's kind of ugly out there, but he's getting the job done. Do we have a better alternative? And maybe just the inertia, the power of incumbency, and his desire to defy the odds and run. I think he's a kind of an ornery guy who gets angry when he hears people doubting him. That combination of factors might just lead us to Joe Biden running for re-election. We'll see how that goes. We know who he is and what he's about, and the American people will have to make a choice 2 years from now.
Because it seems like Gavin Newsom's already running. So we'll see if there's more push and more power that comes out of California in that Pelosi pipeline into Washington. All right, everybody.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Kilmeade. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to click to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page. This is the only way that I know for sure that you're not going to miss any great commentary, any great news bites, any great interviews coming your way on Fox. You can get it all here on YouTube. So subscribe right now.